All right, so moving on to the next segment. I'll be sharing my top 5 Devin Haney wins of his young boxing career this far. So I'll be ranking his wins from 5 all the way down to number 1, what I believe has been his best victories of his boxing career thus far. So starting at number 5, I have Devin Haney's win against Gamboa. Now, Gamboa obviously was not the same fighter they once was years ago when he fought Devin Haney back in late 2020. But Devin Haney proved that he can hang with a big time name, a big time fighter in the sport of boxing. Outboxed and dominated Gamboa in his first world title defense and his first WBC lightweight championship defense. He went on to comfortably defeat Gamboa for outboxing for a total of 12 rounds. Really broke his will in the second half of the fight. If you guys go back and watch that fight, after round 6, Gamboa wasn't in that fight to beat Devin Haney at that particular point anymore. He was just in there to survive for 12 rounds with Devin Haney. Devin Haney broke his will as the later rounds went on in the fight, and he outboxed and outclassed Gamboa in his first world title defense. I think that's a top 5 victory for him in his respective career thus far. That's the 5th biggest win on my list. And number 4, I have Devin Haney's win against Jojo Diaz. Devin Haney handed Jojo Diaz at the time his second career loss back in late December of 2021. Devin Haney went on to outbox Jojo Diaz for 12 rounds to successfully retain his WBC lightweight championship. And he silenced a lot of critics out there that called him an email champion and not an elite fighter. Devin Haney went out there and proved that he can hang with the best in the lightweight division, beating Jojo Diaz comfortably in a 12-round fight to successfully retain his WBC lightweight title. That win is number 4 on my list. Number 3, I have Devin Haney's first victory against George Kambosos to become an undisputed lightweight champion. Now, this is number 3 on my list because Devin Haney took a risk traveling to Melbourne, Australia to fight George Kambosos and a shot to become an undisputed championship, become an undisputed champion in the sport of boxing. And George Kambosos, this was dangerous for Devin Haney because George Kambosos was riding a wave of momentum after pulling off one of the biggest upsets in boxing in recent boxing memory when he defeated Teofimo Lopez in late 2021 in November in a unified lightweight championship fight. He was riding a wave of momentum, got the home field advantage for that fight against Devin Haney, but it didn't matter because Devin Haney went all the way to Melbourne, Australia, and absolutely dominated and dismantled George Kambosos for 12 rounds to become the first ever undisputed lightweight champion in the 4-belt era. Just doing that at a young age of 23 years of age made it look very easy, a cakewalk against George Kambosos. That win is number 3 on my list for Devin Haney. And number 2, Devin Haney's second win against George Kambosos is on my list. I think that's his second biggest victory of his boxing career. Just a few months removed from the first fight of Devin Haney versus George Kambosos, you saw George Kambosos cash in his rematch clause to take on Devin Haney in a rematch for an undisputed championship fight in the lightweight division. Devin Haney proved that first fight was not a fluke. He did exactly what he did a few months prior. He went back over to Melbourne, Australia. Same rules applied. 12 championship rounds that he outboxed George Kambosos, dismantled and dominated him, took away his best attributes, proved that the first victory was not a fluke. And I think his second victory against George Kambosos was better than his first one. He fixed his minor flaws. He tweaked his minor flaws that he had in the first fight with George Kambosos, which there was really no flaws, but he wasn't getting hit as much in the second fight. Made George Kambosos bleed all over the place. That stiff jab was bread and butter for Devin Haney in that fight. Dominated and dismantled him in the second fight. I think that second fight performance was way better than the first one. Made it no doubt that Devin Haney was the better guy and absolutely has George Kambosos' number. I like that second victory better than the first, and he went on to successfully retain his undisputed lightweight titles. That victory is number 2 on my list. But number 1 to me, Number one, Devin Haney's best victory of his boxing career thus far is a successful title of defense that came earlier this year against Vasily Lomachenko. To me, this was the best boxing fight of the calendar year 2023 thus far. Devin Haney squaring off against one of the greatest fighters of this era, Lomachenko. He outboxed Vasily Lomachenko in the first half of this fight, and in my opinion, when Lomachenko began to find his groove in the second half of this fight, it became more competitive down the stretch. And then this was a particular point where a lot of people were leaning towards Lomachenko winning this fight. But what I saw in this fight, I saw Devin Haney look to his corner, and his corner had no adjustment for what Vasily Lomachenko was dishing in him in the later rounds. Devin Haney took it out of his mind, of his playbook, to do what was best, and that was outbox Vasily Lomachenko in the later rounds, hitting him with some clean body shots, was landing a lot of effective counter shots on Vasily Lomachenko to help him win this fight against Vasily Lomachenko and successfully retain his undisputed championships, beating a future Hall of Famer in Vasily Lomachenko. That has to be his biggest victory of his boxing career thus far. Those are my top 5 Devin Haney victories of his young boxing career thus far. We're going to see what he's capable of doing, stepping up in a new weight class to fight Regis Prograis December 9th when he challenges Regis Prograis for his WBC world title. But those are my top 5 Devin the Dream Haney victories in his boxing career thus far.